some notes. And
yes. Happy to, yes.
yeah, great. So
thank you.
oh, thank you. So let's see.
Chair Harrington should be joining us.
I saw that she'd been in and had to go pop back out a second. And Casey is the hi.
So Kevin, Steve, since it is 1 o'clock, I have gone ahead and started the stream.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. So we've got one more joining us here relatively soon, I'm assuming. Why don't I go? I'll introduce myself. I think we've been trying to get people linked up a little bit. My name's Steve March. I'm the former county auditor for Multnomah County, and Multnomah County's had a salary commission for a number of years. So when they were looking for somebody to help out, welcome, Casey. They were wanted somebody with some salary commission experience, and so I, in my 8 years, actually I did 9.5, so I did 5 salary commissions in that period of time. So let's go around and introduce ourselves. Why don't you go ahead, Kevin, and introduce yourself to the group. Yep. And then on my screen, I go across the top, I've got Susan and then Brianna, and then.
All right. Thank you, Steve. My name is Kevin Moss. I'm the board clerk for the Washington County Board of Commissioners and will be serving as your technical support Zoom expert for these meetings.
Hi, I'm Susan Mullet, and I'm the classification and compensation manager for Multnomah County.
Great. Thank you, Brianna.
Hi, I'm Brianna Ekandam, and I'm a chief HR officer for Providence, Portland, and Providence Hood River.
Okay. Well, I'm within throwing distance of Providence, Portland. I'm on 44th, so.
Very close.
Okay. Go ahead.
Me?
Yeah, sorry.
My name is Heike. Easiest way to remember that is Heike, like Heike football. Right. Heike Kirkendall Baker, and I'm the associate vice president at Lewis and Clark College.
Laura?
Hi, I'm Laura Sampson, and I'm the Senior Classification and Compensation Analyst for Multnomah County.
Thank you. Suzanne?
Suzanne Smith, and I am the alternate. I'm retired, moved here in September of 2019, so I'm a new resident of Washington County with a background in human resources.
Right. As the city and county of
Broomfield.
Yes. Brad? So he's down there somewhere on the left, I think.
Yeah, I just ended up getting onto another screen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so I couldn't turn on my mic. There's always one.
I know. It's you know, that our virtual world is not as simple as we would love.
Yeah. So my name's Brad Anderson. I'm an attorney with Washington County Council Office and do a grab bag of things, and been with the county for the last 15 years.
Okay. Janet, I see you're next. So on my screen, you're next.
You're on mute, Janet.
Janet Wellsberg, admin specialist in the county admin office. Thank you.
Thank you. And Chair Harrington. Or we could save the best for last.
Well, don't forget Casey. Hello, everyone. I am so excited to be with you today. I'm Catherine Harrington. I'm the elected chair of the Washington County Board of Commissioners, which consists of myself, the at-large chair, and 4 elected district commissioners. Welcome.
And Casey.
Hi, I'm Casey Koronek. I'm an HR director with Workplace Change.
Okay, and you formerly worked at the state, as I recall.
Yep.
Great, great. And Catherine actually at one time was a Metro counselor as well. So she's been representing Washington County for some time in one capacity or another. So for any of our listening audience out there, these meetings are, are available virtually to you. We are not taking public comment per se, but people may comment, send comments or questions to salary commission. If you found your way here, you probably saw the agenda, and it's on near the bottom of the agenda where you can send comments and questions. If something warrants further discussion, the Salary Commission may offer to have you come and testify virtually. So that is a possibility, but it's a very focused Salary Commission. The duty of the Salary Commission is to come up with a compensation plan for the elected board, including the chair and the commissioners. The current salaries have been tied to actually a circuit court judge's salary, 80% for the chair and 40% of that for the commissioners themselves. And I'll send you those details, as well as if you're interested in looking at some potential comparators. There was some brought up during the board work session when this was first discussed, and I went through and looked at their populations. So we'll have both the county populations. Washington County is now 630,000, so it's smaller than Multnomah County and bigger than all the rest of the ones on the list. So bigger than Clackamas, bigger than Marion, bigger than Lane. And that kind of, in one sense, gives you an idea of the workload, perhaps from a number of constituents point of view. And I'll send links to the majority of those counties use a general law requirement of what they call a board of compensation. And that reports to the county commission, and then it's up to the county commission to adopt that. They don't always adopt the recommendations of those compensation boards. This salary commission is a lot like Multnomah County's salary commission, in that they actually, the five of you actually will set the salaries for the chair and for the commissioners. So it's a great responsibility, and at the same time, I think a great opportunity to get a greater understanding of local governments and how other compensation people look at elected officials. And it's not like you're not evaluating their performance. You're looking at essentially what is the workload. Back when the salaries were last adjusted, before that, they were making a maximum of $10,000 for a county commissioner. And then in 2008 and passed in 2009, they changed to tie it to the circuit court judges. Well, at that time, the county was about 520,000 people. Now it's 630,000 people. So it's grown significantly in those last years. So after this meeting, I'll send you those links and the information about the Washington County salaries specifically. You're welcome. Today, our plan is to have a discussion of the ballot measure from the chair, and then we'll talk. The county counsel's office will talk a little bit about the sort of bylaws. Governing restrictions. So, as an appointed volunteer of the county, you are covered by Oregon Revised Statute 244, which is the legal conflict of interest statute. So as I told the board when I took this on, I have neither I or any member of my household have any connection to any of the commissioners and don't have any business interest to them, et cetera. So that is something to kind of keep in mind, make sure and I think that was kind of talked about a little bit in our outreach for this. So does anybody have a conflict of interest or a potential conflict of interest with the board? I'm seeing a lot of heads shaking no. Okay, perfect. Because that's you're exactly the kind of people we need, is not somebody with some sort of coming in with some sort of bias in one way or the other. So thank you again. Then after the discussions of that, we'll talk about our meeting schedule. And then also I mentioned that you can invite testimony. So the thought had crossed my mind as we're getting testimony from Chair Harrington today, mostly about the ballot measure, but she has some of the history and around it. You might consider, and you don't have to, this is entirely up to you, but sometimes salary commissions or compensation boards might look at what's the workload of a commissioner or a chair. Some of that is tied to the number of population. The others of it is tied to the amount of budget. Thirdly, it could be considered how many constituents, how many other things do you serve on as a commissioner. So all those things you can kind of pick up a little of that in the discussions from the Salary Commission reports and the Board of Compensation reports. So I think that'll kind of frame your reference a little bit. And should you wish to invite any current or former commissioner or chair, I'm sure the county administrator's office will do the outreach and make sure we're able to get them scheduled for a meeting. So that's kind of the overview. These meetings are being recorded. They will be on the county's Zoom page. It's you've got they maintained for a number of years that service. So this will be part of that, and they have on a Facebook page too, as I understand it. So, okay, well, let's. Is any questions at this point? Nobody raising their hand. Okay, good. All right, I've already given you too much information then. Anyhow, so let's turn it over to Chair Harrington to talk a little bit about the ballot measure and how it came about.
Great. Thank you very much, Steve. And thank you, Steve, for taking this project on and helping us so that we can be assured that the residents of Washington County are getting a great solution from real experts in this field, because I am not an expert in this field. In fact, I find myself being a generalist. So when three of us joined the Board of Commissioners in 2019, we had, through our 5-person set of work sessions in the first half, conversation about how we would like to see the salary structure changed to be more commensurate with the time involved to do the work for all of the different aspects of Washington County. And you can look at our website to get a flavor for the number of services, the number of committees we have. But I also looked at, I serve on the audit committee for Washington County, and the sister agency that we are the board of directors for, Clean Water Services. And it all boils down to the fact that there's standard county services as well as unique ones. So we have everything from standard county services like elections, health and human services, land use permitting, to taking care of the over 200,000 residents who live in urban unincorporated Washington County and have special service districts as listed on page 3 of the audit committee bylaws. the Enhanced Sheriff Patrol District, Service District for Lighting Number 1, the Urban Road Maintenance Service District, North Bethany County Service District for roads, and then we have the County-wide Housing Authority of Washington County, and then of course, Clean Water Services itself. So there's a lot right there. So we also talked about other key plans for the county, and our strategic plan for the county is decades old. And we talked about how we need to get going and get a multi-year program together that includes modern community engagement best practices to get a strategic plan for the 21st century for Washington County. Well, then some other events happened where we needed to hire a new county administrative officer. No sooner did we do that, or kick off that national search, that COVID happened. And so it's been one heck of a 2-year cycle. We will get to that strategic plan. In fact, our new county administrative officer will be bringing us her work plan and vision for that through the course of this year. So realizing that things have changed a lot over the last 4 or 5 decades, I brought forward the idea then in mid-2019 of doing charter amendments. And so we went through discussions on that and decided that with all that was on our plate in 2019 to hold off. So we came back to it in the spring of 2020, thanks to Commissioner Pam Treese's efforts with our county counsel, Alan Rapplier, and on the ballot, gosh, now so much has happened. Oh yes, on the November ballot in 2020, we put 2 charter amendments before the voters, one to deal with the land use ordinance season, and then 34-300 to ask the voters about changing the compensation approach to empower all of you. And so in the voters pamphlet, which is available on the county election site, pamphlet, the voters pamphlet pages WC-43 and has 42 has the amendment, 43 has 2 measure statements. So there's a measure statement from me that talks about how the county has changed in terms of not only population growth, but responsibility areas. And then from a set of folks that highlighted how the face of Washington County, the collection of the population has changed as well. And the bottom line fact that with these salaries, the salaries are what determines if it's a full-time or a part-time salary. And with the salary range that it is set at, we have tended to have older people serving on the Board of Commission, and also it has not enabled historically disadvantaged community group members to consider running for this office. So it's a real obstacle to equity. So putting the item on the ballot, all of what I'm telling you is public information, was supported by 4 of the 5 commissioners. One commissioner did not support it because he runs his own business and he is concerned that this will require him to switch to full-time status. I'll be coming back to you, or I'll be writing you a letter as public input myself to ask you to consider defining an option for him to continue in this final 4-year term that he has. But please know that all of the other commissioners, or the other 3 of the 4 district commissioners, are ready to go and entertain a full-time basis because of the scope of work and what our public demands of us for our access, for us to make the time to make thoughtful and informed decisions on their behalf. So you have a big agenda. So I'd like to leave my comments at that, Mr. March. And if staff, if you're interested in the links, the easy links to any of this public information, staff knows that I will help them get those pointers in whatever way helps you. Thank you very much for serving and sharing your time and expertise on behalf of the community of Washington County.
Thank you, Chair Harrington. And I just want to say while you're here, I actually sent out that ballot measure language yesterday. Things are moving fast. I mean, it's so yeah. I guess I read your mind, but I felt that I should send that out, and so it's and Brad's given me some more information available to that we could share should we need to. Anyhow.
We are really relying upon your work with Steve and staff to make sure that the public has a report from you that shows that this process has been credible. Please know that all of the commissioners, as well as former County Commissioner Dick Scouten, who just finished his 20-year tenure as a commissioner, are all available to you should you want to ask us questions. We're more than happy for you to reach out to us and for us to make ourselves available per your meeting schedules to hear any and all questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. And you can tell we've been very hands off. I haven't been communicating my every move to the chair. So, yeah, exactly.
In fact, I will drop off unless you have any other questions of me. I will drop off because I don't want you to be at all intimidated or whatnot with my presence. So.
Anybody have any questions at this time? You'll have a chance to bring the chair back at a future date. Okay, seeing no questions. Thank you very much, Chair.
And thank you all for staying healthy. I greatly appreciate it. And so do our public health folks too.
Thank you. Well, that's actually one of the reasons, with COVID kind of hanging on as it has and the rollout of vaccines, I came up with the idea, since we had gotten 6 qualified people, that let's at least make one of them an alternate in case one of you or one of your family required you to drop out for some reason. It's sometimes good to have a backup, and so the commissioners thought it was a good idea. We moved ahead with that, and so we were able to bring Suzanne on. It was a really tough call. I'm kind of tearing what little hair I have left out, and it's a lot in back, but anyhow. So again, you guys are the professionals. I'm here to facilitate your work and to help arrange for anything you need or want in the way of information related to compensation for elected officials. I'll help with your meetings as much as you want me to, but other than that, let's start with Brad. You want to talk a little bit about commissions and boards and such?
Certainly.
Thank you.
So by volunteering to be on the Salary Commission, you are all now public officials if you weren't one already. And with that carries some responsibilities because you are involved with the of the public, and so we got to follow some basic laws. Public meetings laws apply to every meeting you have. There's not a whole lot to say here because Kevin and the County Administrative Office will handle all the meeting minutes, the notices, etc. So that's not important to you. The one important thing I would mention regarding public meetings is we have to be careful on communicating with each other and inadvertently creating a public meeting. So I would suggest that you do not get into a scenario where you are emailing all your fellow commissioners and you're having a conversation back and forth through these emails, because that can be considered a public meeting. So what I would suggest is that you work through Steve if you have some questions, concerns, etc., and then in these public meetings that you have the conversations that you need to have. Just through your communications with each other, we don't want to unwittingly create a public meeting, because then we've got all sorts of problems in that we haven't notified others, others have had the opportunity to listen to that conversation, etc. Public records laws also apply. And this is often difficult for folks that aren't using county computers, etc. And so, because you have to, not only are they public records, but they have to be retained. So the rules on that are, I'll just try to keep it as simple as possible, is you need to retain any email that you have sent. You don't need to retain an email that you have received, because the sender will retain that record. So you need to retain it however you retain your documents, but you can't just delete them all. And unfortunately, as we've learned over the years, periodically we will have a request for those records. So you need to be able to bring them back and give them to us so that we can respond to a public records request. So this is often difficult for folks that, like I said, don't have county computers, because we would take care of that for you through your computer system, but you're using your own private computers. So any questions on those first two issues? There's a lot there, but I just want to give you an opportunity to ask questions.
I did just wanted to chime in here. Whenever since you've been appointed, when I send, well, even before, when I send an email out, I'll try to send it to everyone, and I always include the board clerk, and his office can take care of retaining anything that I've sent to you. For example, the ballot measure information, I originally got it from the county, but since I sent it out to you, it becomes a different public record. But so it's on my end, we're retaining it through Kevin there. Thank you very much, Kevin.
Right. But if you send an email to Steve, then you got to retain that document. Okay. The other piece that Steve has already mentioned, and frankly, I don't think it's really going to have much impact on you all, is the ethics laws in ORS Chapter 344. You've probably heard of the Oregon Ethics Commission. The key that Steve's already taken care of is that you don't have a family or business interest with any of these commissioners. So that shouldn't impact you. You cannot use your office, which you consider this is your office, for financial gain. I don't anticipate that could ever conceivably happen with you all. The only thing I could ever think of, and this is, more a joke than anything else, is a commissioner could bribe you, etc. That, we'd have all sorts of other problems if that ever happened. But that's about the only scenario I can even think of that would apply in your, because your scope is so narrowly focused. And then you just can't take something of value. That this really only happens for regular government employees, usually in the purchasing world, and they get benefit. Vendors will try to give them benefits that they just can't accept. And then government elected officials periodically run into this situation as well. You may read about it periodically in the newspaper, where they end up on a trip to Hawaii or something like that, and people start questioning those types of things. How did you get a trip to Hawaii for free? I don't anticipate that happening with this group, so I'm not that concerned about it. Are there any questions related to that area? Okay, Steve, I'm gonna kind of jump into your area for just a second, just because I've been in the county government business for 25 years, and I've seen various setups with boards of commissioners. So I'll just kind of explain that across the state, it really varies how boards and commissions are set up. Some have 3 members, some have 5. And I've worked for 3 counties now. One county, a very small county in Eastern Oregon, 1 full-time commissioner and 2 part-timers. I've worked for a county where we had 3 full-time commissioners. Here we have one elected chair who represents the entire district, and then 4 district commissioners. When I came on 15 years ago, I was kind of surprised that our district commissioners were part-time, given the size of this county. And in my 15 years here, I've seen the workload explode for these members. So that's my 2 cents on what I've seen across the state as well as in Washington County. Back to you, Steve.
Thank you very much, Brad. I appreciate it. So I'm one of those people that in a different life, I got a trip to Hawaii, but I reported it as I was required to by law, and paid for the trip there and back myself through my campaign fund. So I followed the rules. So, but as I told the board that if anybody approached any one of you or myself to try to influence the salary commission, that I would report it to the proper authorities. So I don't expect you to be confronted with anything like that, but I just, having been an auditor, having been a legislator, I wanted to be upfront about it. Auditors in particular, we have a very high standard of ethics as an auditor too. So, okay, well, let's see, bylaws discussion. Let's turn back to Brad.
So are you going to share your screen, Steve, or are we just going to have a general discussion on what the bylaws we're anticipating?
I don't have the bylaws up. Are you in a position to do that?
Let's see if I can do that. Let's see. Where did I put that?
My little laptop doesn't like shared screens that much.
Yeah, I'm doing the same thing here.
Okay.
Let's see. All right, hold on. Let's see if I can do this. Oh, wait a minute. I don't know how to do this on this platform. I can only do it on Teams.
So Brad, do you see the shared screen green button at the bottom?
Oh, yes. There we go.
That's how you should be able to do it.
Okay, let's try this. I gotta find it.
As you're pulling that up, one of the biggest questions we have are around voting by the alternate. We are thinking that the only time the alternate would need to vote would be if there was vacancy and the alternate was elevated to full, or if we at one meeting say we're only had 2 people plus the alternate, then we could continue the meeting on as a quorum. We're not going to do a lot of votes. Vote for chair and vice chair, and at the very end, I suspect that's going to be the only vote, is when you've come down with a plan for a compensation plan for the board, then and you just want to move forward with that, there will be a draft report and you'd probably vote on the draft at that time. But I don't see a lot of votes in between the beginning and the end. It's so that's not a big issue.
So Kevin, I sent it to you. I'm hoping you can pull it up.
Yeah, can everyone see that?
Yes.
Oh, yes, perfect.
Thank
you.
So in essence, I would say that these are very simple bylaws because your focus is so narrow. We have a lot of boards and commissions that have very broad issues that they look at, but because you're so narrowly focused, it creates a more simplistic bylaws. So Article 1 is just the name of the Salary Commission. Article 2 is your purpose, which is to, come up with salary decisions for the chair and the other commissioners. You're not setting the salary for the elected sheriff, the elected auditor, or any other. It's just the boards. Article 3 talks about, and this is where we're going to have to make some changes based on board decisions on Tuesday on the alternative position, is just basically it talks about the membership, 5 professionals in HR and compensation experience, and that these appointments, a lot of this just has to do with just county protocol, that they're made according to county rules of procedure. The terms are 2 years. They begin on January 1 and expire December 31st. Members may be reappointed at the discretion of the Board of Commissioners. And some vacant position language. And then there's some language about that you got to make it to the meetings. And if you miss more than 3 consecutive meetings, then there may be consequences. And that you may be removed for cause. I've never seen that happen in my career. Article 4 talks about just basics on how the meetings occur and that they're held at least quarterly. I think Steve's got a much more condensed time frame than that. So that's not going to be relevant for you all. And times and dates of the meetings are established, and the meetings may be conducted remotely. That's kind of a change from how we've done things in the past. Usually they were in person, and then you got to have a quorum to transact business, and you're subject to the public meetings law and Robert's Rules of Order. That doesn't come up very often. The next section, subsection G, you're entitled to 1 vote, and we don't do proxy votes. So that's one thing that may be a little different from your experience, but in government, we don't do proxy votes. You're at your first meeting, you're supposed to elect a chair and a vice chair, and your chair presides over the meetings. And in the absence, the vice chair takes over as the chair. And that, let's see, the last area Article 5 is you can form subcommittees. I don't anticipate that may happen in this situation. Article 6 is commissioner support, and that's, you know, you will be supported by the organization, basically. Steve March has been contracted to be your facilitator, and so he will be helping you along in all of this. And there may be other staff support like Kevin and Janet to help out as well. And that you'll receive representation by our office. Article 6 is just about modifications to the bylaws, and that you may, and just basically how you go about modifying the bylaws. You are unique in that the board is not approving your bylaws. The board wanted to keep you independent, and so they're really your bylaws. Every other board or commission actually has to have board approval of their bylaws, but the board wanted to give you your own bylaws. Now we're going to have to make some revisions, as Steve's mentioned, because of the alternate position, and I'll work with Steve on that to try to get that issue addressed and buttoned up. But those are your basic bylaws. Like I said, they're not that complicated. If you have any questions, of course, they're your bylaws, so you get to approve them. These are just the ones we're suggesting for you. Is there any questions?
I do have one comment. Talked about we shall meet no less than once quarterly. I'd like to say or until the work of the biennium is done, and then we need to meet quarterly, something like that. So
yes, good point.
Because basically your work is to come up with the compensation plan. It's going to be a 2-year compensation plan, so you make a provision for the second year, and then essentially the work is done, and until the next salary commission is appointed. So I didn't want us to have to check in quarterly. I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing all of you quarterly, but your schedules might not allow. So,
Are there any questions?
Any suggestions? Okay. Well, Brad will redraft these, and we'll take a vote. You can vote on them next meeting. So that I think that covers the bylaws and gets us into the next discussion about meeting schedule. So Tuesdays and Thursdays are definitely out, as those are generally reserved for board meetings and various other meetings that require the board clerk and others to be working their real jobs instead of supporting the salary commission, which we're so grateful for. So when I had the salary commission of Multnomah County, every other Friday seemed to work pretty well, and like they met at 7:30 in the morning. Of course, they were enticed in early with coffee and donuts, and I don't have any sort of ones that I can beam over to you. When I get my transporter fix, we'll take care of that. Does that work for everybody, more or less? Okay, I'm getting nods.
This time is a little difficult every other week because I have another standing meeting.
Okay.
So if we could change the time, Fridays work great. So
okay, what other times do you have?
My other meeting runs from 1 to 1:30 or 1 to 2:30. So
okay.
3 o'clock is a good time for me. If
Okay.
it works for others on Fridays.
That work for other people? 3 o'clock? Okay, so every other Friday at 3. Thank you. That was quick. Does that set you up well, Kevin, for a regularly scheduled meeting?
Yes, I can set the Zoom link up for recurring every 2 weeks, Friday at 3 p.m.
Thanks. So that's great. You guys, I knew you guys would be good to work with. You know, I go through the resumes and it had your applications, and I said, huh, these will be good people to work with. And the board also, you know, when I presented the group to the board, they had obviously read all of your resumes and information that had been provided, and they were impressed as well. So I took that as a good sign. When I run the salary commissions before, it's basically you folks decide your own approach. And I'm just here to help. So that's whatever you need in assistance, we'll do that. So, okay, we've got number 5 out of the way, Oregon counties for possible comparative salaries. So during our initial discussion, a number of counties that were brought up, Clackamas County, Lane County, Marion County, and Multnomah County. I'm gathering more detailed information on each of those, but I will send you the links to their various reports or the website, which you can get to all the information. As I mentioned, the county commissions don't always accept the recommendation of the boards of compensation. Now, but the boards of compensation are in state law, and they report to the commissioners. So the commissioners can override their recommendations, and in the past, they often have. They've usually tended to reduce the recommendation of the salary or the compensation boards. Multnomah County decided they, like Washington County, did not want their hands on their own salaries in any way other than receiving the report. And lately it was just sending them the report and providing the information to HR and it's for them to come up with with payment. So, and that's what essentially you're doing. When you make the decision, that will be forwarded to the HR department at Washington County, and they will go through the process of implementing your decision. So, okay, those counties, as I think I mentioned at the beginning, Washington County has grown a lot since the 520,000 when they changed it to circuit court judges. That seemed to be a model. For example, the Washington County auditor and the Multnomah County auditor were both set at a circuit court judge. Some jurisdictions found that wasn't always the best because once in a while the courts were at odds with the legislature, and the legislature is the one that provides them money for raises, and they weren't getting raised. So some of those salaries stagnated over time. So I think the approach of a new salary commission with fresh eyes and deciding what to do is a good way. Most of the compensation boards reports use comparators. So we're looking at equal size counties. Multnomah County had done that over a number of years, and now we also had to do the sheriff and the DA, and they sometimes wanted us to look at one sheriff said, well, compare us to San Francisco. Well, it's a little different market, and San Francisco is a city and county. We don't have any city and counties in Oregon. We also allow in Oregon, which a lot of other states don't necessarily do, we allow cities to cross county boundaries. So there was at one time discussion of Multnomah County becoming a city and county with Portland, but I think Portland wanted the name, so it'd be the city and county of Portland. But we had a couple, other cities like Gresham didn't want to be linked to Portland in that regard. So So anyhow, there's a great history. I have a whole weird background in this stuff. So what the final analysis, when you look at the Multnomah County Salary Commission report, is they decided to do an internal comparator, comparing the commissioners' jobs to like department managers at level 1, 2, and 3. It had 3 different levels depending on the size of the department, and they did an internal comparison for based on the work, what they felt the workload of the commission was. So, but you can come up with your own plan. I don't know whether I probably don't want to roll the dice. That's probably not a professional compensation decision, or draw a card out of the deck. So, but that's the background. I will send you the links after this meeting. I didn't want to flood your brain with a whole bunch of specifics before we got into the general nature of this meeting. So when you look at that, if any of you have a suggestion for other ways of looking at it that you want us to consider, I'd probably, the best thing would be save that for the discussion in 2 weeks of what, are there other things that you want to look at? Do you want to look at some counties in Washington state, for example? I looked at California. I think it's enough different. I wouldn't myself probably use them as a comparator. On the other hand, we have a lot in common with Washington state being up here in the left-hand corner, where we also have a lot of differences. Ask anybody who pays sales tax in Washington or income tax in Oregon. So, or both if you live in one and work in the other. So, anyhow, think about that. Well, if you have other suggestions, I think that's a good thing to bring up. And let's see. So I'll send that, like I say, I'll send the county links out after the meeting. And any other materials, any other things you want to talk about right now? Okay. How about
I had a quick question. This
Sure.
may have been addressed, but I just wanted to clarify. What's the time frame that we would need to present the recommendation?
So it's open. It's basically how long it takes you all to come up with a decision. My sort of what I thought might be a reasonable time frame would be before or by the end of April. But for practical purposes, I'd say the latest date would be the end of June, because start into a new fiscal year and things like that. But so that's why I wanted to clarify the quarterly meetings thing is, I mean, we might get into this next quarter, into the beginning of April, and you guys have already decided, okay, this is the way we want to approach it, and we've looked at whatever we want to look at, and you're ready to move ahead, and that's great, because I don't see this as for you guys. Maybe for me, if I was trying to come up with a compensation plan, I'd probably have lots of crazy ideas, but that wasn't my forte. That's why we have compensation professionals like yourselves, and so we're relying on you and what you want to do and what you want to bring to it. So does that sound reasonable? Okay. Yeah, we don't want this to go on forever. They appoint a new one in 2 years, so and they'll normally would appoint them the first week of January because they'd had all of November and all of December to look in the future. And in 2 years, some of you might want to come back and have more fun again in person, so possibly. So anyhow. So the next thing would be, do we have any volunteers for chair or vice chair? Okay, Casey, you're a volunteer. Okay. Willing to step into the chair position, I'm assuming?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'd be interested in either one.
The one, okay. So I'm getting some nods here. So, well, how about Casey and Brianna? Is that, so for chair, all in favor of Casey, raise your hands. Looks like unanimous. And for vice chair, Brianna. Look, oh yeah, you get to vote for yourself. Okay, great, thank you. So now we have a chair, a vice chair, and please contact me with anything you think you're going to need in the future. As Brad said, all those communications will be public should they're requested, but and if it's, so you're just asking for information is one thing. I don't think anybody's going to be upset about that. Now, if you're asking me, when you guys start discussing methodology and such and actual numbers, then that's for discussion in the public setting of the meeting. So, all right. Any other questions?
Are there job descriptions for the commissioners that we could get a sense on the duties?
Yes, I'll say it again. Your job description is come up with a compensation plan for the elected Board of County Commissioners. There's no, what, you are the first. So
No. Sorry, miscommunication. Are there job descriptions for the commissioners themselves?
Oh, for the commissioners, that I don't know. I'm seeing a nod, no, from Brad. It's the problem with elected officials is there is a list of duties, and then it's a question of, even once the duties are relatively minimal. You have to pass a budget, you have to balance a budget, things like that. Sometimes land use. Multnomah County kind of stepped out of the land use change by handing it over to other governments or to semi-independent boards. But you're not making those kinds of things. And when you run for office, it's you have minimum qualifications. You have to have resided in the county, say, for at least 18 months. I think it depends. Sometimes it's longer. You have to be a registered voter, and which means you have to be at least 18 at this point. And there's not a lot of other requirements other than, can you get yourself elected? And so it's the job duty of an elected official, be it a commissioner or a state representative, is generally a little vague. And it's based on essentially what you've promised the voters to do. I mean, there are obviously some requirements. If you're in the state Senate, you vote on some gubernatorial appointments. If you're in the state house, you don't. So it's I don't know, Brad, can you think of anything that might help them understand the work of a commissioner?
I'll give it a stab. So at a minimum, they meet once a week on Tuesdays. And traditionally in the last couple of years, that's gone on all day long. And then they meet on Thursdays once a month as well. And as the chair was alluding to earlier, in Washington County, you are not only a commissioner for the county, you also sit on the board for Clean Water Services, which is our sewer and water special district that covers most of urban Washington County. And we have a separate organization in Washington County called Clean Water Services that brings their items to the Board of Commissioners as well. And that is different from pretty much every other county in the state. So there's additional responsibilities because of that. I would say that one way you could kind of get an idea for what the board does is look at their agendas for each Tuesday, and then also they do a beginning at every work session where they talk about, it's called Commissioner Communications, and they discuss kind of what they've done the last week. And that will kind of describe kind of the bigger meetings they go to. Obviously, they have constituent communication all the time as well. But as Steve mentioned, I mean, there's no real job description for a board of commissioner. I would say this, and this is kind of important if you haven't worked for a county before, is counties have an incredible range of responsibilities compared to a city. And so we probably, Steve, need to get them a copy of all the various departments that counties have and all the different responsibilities that a county has, because we do everything from elections to collect taxes to do health and human services, to have a juvenile department, land use and transportation. It's just a real wide gamut of responsibilities compared to like a city.
Speaking of cities, are your libraries city libraries, or are they a county library system like Multnomah?
Yeah, that's a really good question too, because we're not like Multnomah, but we're not quite like other areas. We have, the cities have their own libraries. And then we have what we call Washington County, what's the second C stand for? Cooperative Library Services.
Okay.
And they kind of overall organize the various libraries. Good question.
Yeah, and our repository for books and facilitate exchanges and such. I used to have a friend working there. Brad was mentioning the Clean Water Services is almost an entire county district, and they operate, the Board of County Commissioners operate that district. In Multnomah County, the library system has become a separate district, but it is managed by the county commissioners. They are effectively the board of that library district. Multnomah County has 3 what we call special districts or special components. The library, of course, is the biggest one, and the next 2, one was a Riverdale Dunthorpe sanitary or system, and the other is a lighting one. So that's similar as here. It was for a specific region. It used to be its own little separate unit, and it doesn't make sense for a small district to have to duplicate everything that a county can provide. So all the financial services, the auditing, et cetera. So you'll learn a lot about county government. And each one has its own little special quirks. As Brad said, kind of this common was the 3-member commission, and many have gone to 5. Some commissions are still partisan elections, and some are most of the bigger ones have gone to be nonpartisan elections. So I think Clackamas changed from partisan to nonpartisan a few years ago, but there's a strong undercurrent still of the partisan elections. So there's both formal and informal things around governments that occur.
So Steve, can I step in? One other thing I think that's super unique to Washington County versus any other county is traditionally in most jurisdictions across the state, and I think nationwide, your urban area is within a city. In Washington County, we have approximately 200,000 people in our county that are in urban areas, but are not provided services by cities. And that is a huge difference between cities and every other county in the state. So it becomes
for example.
Yeah, Aloha, Bethany, Cooper Mountain, there's just a lot of people that don't live in cities. And that creates a whole unique aspect in this respect. We provide a lot of urban services to folks that counties traditionally don't provide. And like the easiest example I would give is for planning and development. We have all of the area of Bethany, and traditionally that would be within a city that the city would develop. But that's not what happens here in Washington County. The county actually takes on those responsibilities. And it makes a difference too with law enforcement, because like the sheriff provides law enforcement within Bethany, Aloha, and all those unincorporated areas, Cedar Mill. So just that's a unique difference in Washington County as well.
Actually, that gives me a good idea to the Population Research Center at Portland State is the official state data center, and they do yearly estimates of population, and they give population both by cities and in unincorporated areas within counties. So I'll dig that out for each of the counties that we could use it as a comparator. Multnomah County, for example, prior to about it started really in the mid 80s that both Gresham and Portland started eating up what was called then Mid-County. It was very similar to like Aloha, an area of unincorporated county area between two bigger cities. And so at the end of that, city and the county sat down because Portland took the lion's share of the population and land mass. So the city and county sat down and kind of divided up what they called urban services and human services, essentially. So the county, Multnomah County, is big focus is on human services, et cetera. They still have a sheriff, and that sheriff's actually expanded his mission because he's taken over policing duties for Troutdale and for Wood Village. So it's the counties can be a kind of a unique entity in the diversity of services that they provide. So consider this. You're getting some postgraduate education here. And I will try to be as informative as possible, and anything you don't understand we'll get more information on. So but yes, that was a good question. So actually it'd be nice if there was a very simple job description, but these people are elected, so they're not so simple either. They all come in with some unique characteristics. I'd say one unifying theme that I've seen among all electeds is at some point they are trying to help their constituents with life where they're living. And so that's a kind of a mission, particularly at the local government level. It's much more intense, I think, much more hands-on than, say, a governor or somebody like that. I mean, the governor's got lots of constituents, so it's up close and personal. All right. Any other questions? Ideas? All right. Well, I think we're going to let class out a little early today.
So just to clarify, Steve, so I am compiling that Zoom link starting every 2 weeks. Starting the next meeting would be February 12th at 3 p.m. So I'll send that out to all the members, and then I will also update that when any agenda is finished there. And I linked the county's website where the Salary Commission lives on the website. That'll also have the agenda and any materials you may need.
So next time, then we'll talk a little bit about the counties, the reports from the salary, the compensation boards and the Salary Commission, and kind of get your feedback on that. if that's at the pleasure of the chair. And we may, Brad, are you going to be joining us for most meetings or not?
I can if you want me.
It might be good for the next meeting, and then as the commit, the salary commission decides if they have legal issues they want to talk about or other issues. Obviously, with your background in multiple counties, that's a really a real blessing. So, okay. Anything left at the end for the good of the order? Are we adjourned, Chair?
Me?
Oops, what did I do now? Shall we call the meeting adjourned?
Yeah, motion to adjourn.
Okay. Thank you. All right, till next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks again.
Thank you all.